For innovation to happen, we have to search for the value in all new ideas. Creative thinking leads to creativity, but creativity when implemented, that's really key. It's the implementation of those creative ideas. Leaders need to search for the value in all new ideas. When you're the one in front of the patient, you're the leader. When you're the one teaching the student, you're the leader, whether you hold a leader title or not. Innovation isn't just about product. It's a process, innovation. And it's rarely a solo performance. How we react to newness. What happens to us when things that are just foreign to our minds, breakthrough maybe innovation ideas, things that we just can't compute right away, what happens to us when things like that, when we're approached with that, and why it can be hard for us as leaders to see the value in all new ideas. We have habits that get in our way. There's some habits we know we have, and some they're just so ingrained and unconscious we're not even aware, right? Fundamental things for innovation to happen. You need to be aware, just like earlier with social identity. You got to stop and pause and be aware that it's happening, that you're being an idea stopper, not a builder. Recognize the elephant's in control, and you want to upshift and be the rider, right? You want to be the one in control. Prepare, be intentional. Sleep is critical. So here's a key message. Point. Pluses first. When a new idea gets presented to you, what are the pluses of the idea first? Start with the positives. Then what are the opportunities this idea presents for us? Issues. So before you ever get to things that could be issues, right? You've talked about the pluses of the idea, the benefits of it, and the opportunities. Then you talk about issues. What's not right with this? And instead of just saying, yeah, but, or no, that won't work, when you get to issues, the best way to talk about issues is to frame it this way. How to, how might, or in what ways might. Meaning if someone says to you, we can't start doing that with patients, instead of saying we can't, how might we do that and maintain patient safety? How might we do that and whatever your concern is? Make sense? New thinking to overcome the issues. And you're problem solving at that point, right? And if you don't have time to go through point in the discussion, there's always room for sharing a pint. You can do pluses to issues. And not enough time for that, there's always room for pie, right? Pluses and issues. But start with the pluses. Don't let yourselves go to the negative first. Here's one of the things that we struggle with when we try to innovate. We tend to, there's both divergent and convergent thinking, right? Generative is divergent thinking, where we want to kind of go out here, widen the funnel, get as many ideas as we can to consider, and then eventually we want to converge or evaluate those ideas and implement the ones we think will work the best. What we tend to do instead is try to generate and evaluate all at the same time. It's like driving a car with a foot on the gas and a foot on the brake. What happens? You don't go anywhere. You generate a lot of heat, but you don't get anywhere, right? So it really is very important to separate these two activities when you're trying to be innovative. When you're trying to come up with new ways of doing things, start with the generative. If you try to evaluate as you go, you will never get anywhere. It's like you have a good idea, but that will never work, right? Don't do that. Let yourselves go wild with the ideas, and then there's a time for evaluation. So, principles of generative thinking. Defer judgment. Put all that stuff that's going to come naturally to your mind aside and just let it be. Let the idea happen. You never know what you'll be able to marry or merge two ideas. You never know what will come of it, right? Strive for quantity. The more you generate, the more likely it is that you will have some really good quality ideas in the mix, right? Seek wild and unusual ideas. Wild and unusual options. We call them tiger ideas. Seek wild and unusual options. Don't let yourself be limited. Go crazy. Because you never know, right? When you come up with that crazy idea, what is possible from that? So don't let yourself be limited. Look for wild, crazy options. Combining and building on is important. These are the 4 principles of generative thinking that I want you to keep in mind. We're going to go over these. Strive for quantity. First, well, defer judgment, you understand. A couple things about striving for quantity. First, third, second, third, and third. The first third are your typical ideas. The stuff right off the top of your head. In the second third, you start to get some unusual stuff because you got to push, right? You got to dig a little deeper. You start to get some maybe what other people might think of as harebrained, out there ideas. And by the third is where you really get the sophisticated and unusual ideas. in which there's something quite novel and innovative that could happen. But if you stop at the first third, meaning you didn't strive for enough quantity, you didn't push yourself far enough, you're not going to get to the sophisticated and unusual. You're going to get the usual stuff, right? There's nothing more dangerous than a new idea when it's the only one you have. There's always more than one right answer to a problem. There just is. And you need to seek all the possible answers to the problem in order to be able to select the best one that will work, or the best few, depending on the problem. Right? So don't ever stop with a few. Push yourselves. I'm going to push you today for quantity. Seeking wild tiger ideas, as I said. Don't be limited. It's a lot easier to tame a tiger idea than it is to invigorate a lame idea. You take a tiger, and you can always think of ways to take pieces of that idea. Well, we might not be able to do that, but we could do this, right? So go for broke. Be what might seem outlandish to you has some potential buried within it, if not the full idea, that could be implemented. So keep that in mind. Tiger ideas. Go for those big, wild tiger ideas. Combining and building on ideas, talking with others, building on others' ideas. Remember that innovation is a process, and there's some intention behind it. It's rare that it's just like, wow, I was walking in the park and got a brilliant idea. Might happen, but likely it's a bunch of people doing what we just did.